I look through the curtains and I see two things. I see a dude running up the street, not a man out for a jog, a dude running up the street carrying a bag.
Oh, okay.
And I see a car that I don't recognize parked in my driveway. So this car is parked all the way up at my garage.
Oh.
So I'm like, what's up? And because night shift brain, I'm thinking, this dude just dumped a stolen rig in my driveway. So because of some planning and preparedness and some thoughtfulness, I already have an idea of what I'm going to do.
Julia Valencia.
Hi, Amara.
It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
I feel like this is a long time coming since we first met.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm so happy to be part of Women Gun Owners Association of America.
We're super excited to have you. It's been great.
Yeah.
And you have been all over the world since I last saw you and very busy, and we want to hear about it.
Okay, where do we start? So the most recent travel was to Milwaukee, Wisconsin for the United States Concealed Carry Association.
Right.
So they have an expo every year. This year was their 20th anniversary, so they held it in the state that they were founded in, which is Wisconsin. And I got the opportunity to present a couple of different things there every single day of the expo. So it was super busy.
Yeah.
A couple of those things, let's see, we did. My part, my sole piece was make your way to the gun or fight your way to the gun. So we have learned to combine combatives with gun carry, concealed carry. So fight your way to the gun or make your way to the gun was one. We did an advanced concealed carry course. And then I also participated with one of the training managers, Steve Fisher, in home invasion safety and planning.
Oh, that's so cool.
We did, it was great, very well received. And you know, one of the things I like about USCCA, and maybe this, you've heard of this or seen this or understand this sentiment, is feels like the majority of concealed carry owners, at least newer concealed carry owners, conceal carry because it makes them feel safe. Mm-hmm. But there's really a difference between feeling safe and actually being safe.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So they, you know, not to throw people down. That's not what it's about. But what it's really about is training and being proficient. So if you carry your pistol around like a wubby, it makes you feel good. You're not prepared.
I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got to learn, you got to even think about when, where, why, how. And I tell you that's my experience attending USCCA for the past 6 or 7 years, but it's also my own experience. Mm-hmm. So when I was in my early 20s, which was a minute ago, I was convinced by a few law enforcement colleagues. Well, at that time I was working as a bail bondsman. Yeah. So,
I can totally see you doing that.
Yeah. So I was convinced by a couple of law enforcement colleagues, hey, little girl, you should get a gun. You work around downtown. Yeah. Carry large sums of cash. Mm-hmm. You're working with people in crisis. Those weren't their words, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You should get a gun. I was like, oh yeah, you're so right. I'm so vulnerable. So at that time, I bought what I could afford. Yeah. Which was something or other, 380 semi-auto, something or other, right? Mm-hmm. So I took it to the range. How many times? One time, right? Got a little holster for it, put it in my briefcase, and that was it.
Did you even know what you were doing?
No.
Like,
not really.
You just walked into the range and
I got a concealed carry, obviously got a concealed carry license. I mean, I had some guidance. Yeah. But not any true instruction. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. And so it went in my briefcase and then, oh yeah, I have a wubby. I'm good.
Yeah.
Never thought about, and this, I'm telling this story because I get it. And now after 20 years of law enforcement, now there's true understanding and training, right? There's true understanding of what it means to carry concealed.
Right, definitely.
It's a totally different beast. So anyway, getting back to USCCA, it was a great conference. And then, let's see, before that, I went to Italy. So I'm an instructor for next level training, which showcases they've developed and patented the CERT pistol. We can talk about that another time perhaps. But so the CERT pistol, so CERT in conjunction with a world-renowned trainer he goes by Instructor Zero. So Zero and CERT opened up a training academy in Perugia, Italy. So we went there for the grand opening to give some training. And that was amazing.
Was that for CERT?
It was for CERT.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So CERT and Zero formed a partnership about a decade ago, honestly, and it's just taken this long for it to come to fruition. And so now we have a training venue in Ity. So anticipate.
That is so cool.
Yeah, especially because this girl loves pizza.
Was it amazing?
It was amazing. It was exactly what you'd want it to be. It was perfect. So we're traveling and some of the folks we're with, like, you can't have pizza at every meal. And I'm like, yeah, I can.
Yes, I can.
When in Italy. So,
yeah. So
that was the most recent international travel. Awesome. So I'm so looking forward to making that a regular stop. As they said, we now have a training venue there.
Yeah. That's so exciting.
And Instructor Zero is a fantastic, exceptional tactician, and developing more neurocognitive training in regard to firearms and shooting. What I bring, and what Raider Tactical brings is the combatives piece. Because if you only know guncraft, you're missing a whole realm in between, hey, leave me alone.
Right.
And bang, bang.
Right.
Right. So we got to be able to navigate potential threats without just going to gun.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I want to go so much more into your travels and everything as well. But let's back up a little bit to Raider Tactical. Like that is your company? Is that? Yes.
So Raider Tactical was founded in 2006 by my husband, Gary Drake. And at that time, it was really just I don't want to say just. Raider Tactical was and still is a training organization. And at that time, we were also distributing a distributor for SOG knives. So lots of knife play. It has developed into, since 2006 or so, an armed security company. Although we don't do much of that part, we're still a training organization more over and above all else. So lots of training with combatives, firearms. We're training civilians. I know some people don't like that word. Community members. How about that?
Yeah.
Community members, armed and unarmed. We're training military, law enforcement, executive protection, and security people. Yeah.
That's great.
It's amazing.
So is that one of those things where you can go online and you can see the calendar and register for what you want? Or do they need to contact you directly?
For the most part, yeah. Whatever classes we have available are on our website, raidertactical.us. And we also have a host range, which is West Coast Armory Bellevue Gun Club. So we do a lot of stuff out of there. And any classes that Raider Tactical is teaching at Bellevue Gun Club are also listed on Bellevue Gun Club's website. So you bet. And any other class that we do outside of that venue are also, on the website.
Oh, that's nice. So what percentage do you think of your students are women?
Oh, half.
At least half?
At least half, because one of the main pieces of the training that I provide is women's self-defense. So we're doing classes about once a month. And that just has to do with availability. I would do it every day if I could.
Yeah.
Spread the good word.
Yeah.
So that is probably the most rewarding, I think, piece, because I guess, Amara, I just, by the grace of God, have some skills that are somewhat intrinsic. I've always been kind of scrappy, grew up with my brothers, you know, so it doesn't, I forget that other people don't live with the same craziness that I live with.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying I'm looking for trouble, but I'm not looking for trouble. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the women's self-defense thing is really, it's really actually more of a mission than anything else to provide an opportunity for our sisters to go, wait a second, I can do this. I not only can, I need to. And so our personal safety is less of a transactional issue and more of a kind of a modality of how we show up in the world and how we conduct ourselves, how we take up our space.
Definitely.
And it's huge. And showing up, how you show up, how you present yourself, how you respond in the world is such a huge portion of our personal safety.
Absolutely.
So there's actually more than half. Some people say about 80% of the battle right there, already taken care of.
Yeah.
So interestingly enough, in 2016, I was inducted in the Martial Arts Hall of Fame as a Master Defensive Tactics and Self-Defense instructor.
That's so cool.
It was a surprise to me that I was nominated for that, and super humbling, but also extremely rewarding. And it has me realizing repeatedly that I'm absolutely on the right path, where I need to be, not just for myself, but sharing this information with whoever wants to listen.
Absolutely. Well,
yeah.
And this is probably going to sound dumb to a lot of people, but when I was young, like I was 9 years old, and I went to my first martial arts class, and it was traditional Shudokan karate, and I stuck with it until I was 22. And that was just kind of my growing up years, my formative years of learning to be self-aware, and that this is how you should present yourself. And if you need to defend yourself, this is how you do it. But I think, well, it wasn't good self-defense instruction the way I would want my daughter to learn, let's say, because, no one's going to chamber and then hit, and they're not going to like put their hands in the same position. You're not going to, there's good, of course, key points that you take away from all of that, but they didn't really teach us to fight.
You're right. The byproduct of martial arts, traditional martial arts training is invaluable. The byproducts being a sense of confidence, body movement, balance, understanding how to deliver strength, all awesome. So how we have developed a lot of our defensive tactics or combatives curriculum is from a sampling, if you will, of martial arts across board. So it's not just karate, it's not just jujitsu, it's not just Muay Thai or Eskrima. It's not just, you can't silo those and say this is the thing that's going to be effective for you to defend yourself, because contingencies and the human factors infinite, right?
Yeah.
So over the past, I've been involved for the past 23 years. I have colleagues that have been involved for more like 30, 35 years. But we used to get together every Tuesday at the Criminal Justice Training Commission and train. And what we have done is taken a sampling. Everybody that came, there was a handful of core folks. Everyone that came had some background in some martial art. Judo, Dongula, who's the founder of a wrestling, is a judo expert. And he would bring that. He was the founder of a wrestling, and a wrestling is this group that I was talking about. We would all get together on Tuesdays and
a wrestling.
Yeah. So we got together and we would train and figure out what's actually working and not working. And we were spurred more often than not, unfortunately, by incidents that happen, in critical incidents that would happen in the field. Deputy Herzog, Deputy Cox, those folks that were killed, those officers that were killed in the line of duty were like, hey, because we were all instructors as CJTC, instructors for the Basic Law Enforcement Academy, we're asking ourselves, what are we doing wrong? What do we need to do differently? How are we going to help recruits and ourselves veteran officers stay safe. What's actually
definitely
working, right? So I say this because for me, it's super powerful. When we would put our duty belts on and get on the mats, game changer, right? It's one thing to do your traditional martial art or to practice your art without an extra gear on. But you put a duty belt on and start trying to maneuver in the same ways you would, it's cumbersome.
I imagine.
For sure.
Yeah.
Right? Being on your back, getting to your side, all of those things. So we started doing that and we continue to train that way. And this is how we've developed a lot of the defensive tactics and combatives, not just that we train outside of the Criminal Justice Training Commission, but a lot of it has stayed with the Basic Law Enforcement Academy and the Corrections Officers Academy, actually, to further personal safety and defensive tactics safety in the field. And I'm grateful for that. And I will continue to feed that monster because it is so important to me that the folks before us, whatever job they had, particularly law enforcement, near and dear to my heart, that those people, those valiant people don't die in vain.
Yeah.
Right? We learn from what's happened and improve and share that improvement or share that new method with others.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's refreshing to learn from, not necessarily the mistakes, but like to learn from what happened and then be able to proactively provide the training that everybody else needs to make sure that doesn't happen again if possible.
That's it.
Yeah. But I think I think I always had this idea in my head, probably because I was learning martial arts as a kid, that if you want to learn to defend yourself, you have to learn a martial art.
Right.
It wasn't just a self-defense course. Right. It was kind of like a laughable thing for me to be like, oh, okay, learn to yell fire instead of rape or, so I'm like, okay, what else do we have here? And so, I saw some of these basic self-defense classes and I didn't take them seriously. And I don't know if that's a common thing that other women or other people might believe, but it's completely false.
Yeah.
And I just never really considered that there would be maybe an ongoing women's self-defense course that's not exactly Muay Thai or...
Well, honestly, is it helpful to understand martial art? For sure.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be a positive contribution. But so is team sport or some sort of athletics. Right. That's also a positive contribution to personal safety and self-defense. But the ideas that the curriculum that I teach is not technique based. It's based on core concepts and principles of things like structure, balance, control, movement, those things that you actually have the ability to manipulate, right? It's not about block, parry, any of those kinds of things, strike. It's not just that. Well, there is some of that, obviously, right? So we may need to hit somebody to defend ourselves. So there, I said it. Okay. Commit some sort of aggressive act to defend ourselves. But it's not based on if this happens, I do this, let's see, check the box and I should be all set.
Yeah. Like some organized flow chart or
life
something like that.
Life doesn't work like, I don't know if you know this, life doesn't work like
that. Basically nothing works like that.
Yeah, there's no flow chart. And again, the idea of personal safety is not transactional. It's a way of being. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of showing up and being prepared and being engaged and all of that kind of thing.
Right. And then take that to a gunfight and oh my God, the same kind of thing. You're not going to have this happened. So now I need to make sure my hand's on my gun. And now this is the point where I can take it out. This is the point where it's legal for me to defend myself.
It's so easy, right? There's bright lines all along the way that tell you exactly how you need to perform.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Or I love here's a perfect stance. Here's how you line your sights. Here you take a slow, deep breath.
Because you have all the time in the world to do that. Yeah. The fact of the matter is, in self-defensive shootings, they happen in a confined distance, in a close space of, depending on what statistics you look at, 5 to 7 feet.
Right.
Well, we're about 4 feet apart right now. I don't want to get into a gunfight at this distance because especially when the training that I've had is this. Mm-hmm. Well, can you reach out and take?
Absolutely. Yeah, I can just take it from you.
So we want to continue the training. You absolutely have to understand marksmanship. You absolutely have to understand sight picture, sight alignment, trigger press, all of the fundamentals, and be proficient.
Right.
So we take all of that information and then we push it to hasty. We push it to critical. We push it to, now we have to move. But if we don't, and now we have to, what we call target focus shooting. Now I have to press my gun, or maybe I need to keep my pistol in a compressed position mm-hmm. and engage my threat.
Right.
But if I don't understand how my gun works, or I don't understand a straight, flat gun, I'm going to miss.
Yeah.
And also understanding then, of course, oh gosh, we developed so many unhelpful habits from range shooting that don't apply to defensive shooting.
Absolutely.
As their hindrance.
They are. And that's part of why Women Gun Owners was started, is because I was trying to learn how to shoot and how to be a responsible gun owner. And I go to these ranges, I've been to several, mm-hmm. and I'm like, what do you mean I can't draw and fire? When am I ever going to defend myself and not draw and fire?
Right.
And I understand why that is. Of course, there's the liability of it, and the public is stupid. And so there's going to be accidents. And so I get that, but why is it not normalized to go to a defensive shooting course where you are doing that? Why are those not mm-hmm. more readily available?
Yes. Well, good question. And I'm telling you that this is part of what we do. Mm-hmm. This is part of what we do because just that reason, we don't have the time, distance, environment to do this fantastic marksmanship, mm-hmm. to commit this fantastic marksmanship. We need to understand the concepts of defensive shooting, which is a quick draw, movement, the idea of using cover, mm-hmm. if it's available, all of these things, drawing from the holster, drawing from concealment, if you conceal carry, and Amara, and the application of the 4 firearm safety rules. Mm-hmm. Wait, what?
I do want to know, I'm so curious, like how you were raised in regards to firearms and how you came to familiarize yourself with them, and then how all of this eventually led you into becoming a police officer, sure. where your motivations were. What's your story as a child and young adult?
No guns. Guns were not even a topic. Mm-hmm. So my father was in the military, but we didn't have guns in the home. We were urban dwellers. We didn't mm-hmm. go hunting or do anything like that. If anything, maybe there were knives for camping.
Right.
But nothing like that. It wasn't until my bail bond days that I picked up my first pistol, went to the range a time or two, and it wasn't honestly until I started in law enforcement that guns became part of my existence. So also, interestingly enough, it's been such a journey as it is. Mm-hmm. But even with basic law enforcement training with a firearm, pistol, rifle, whatever, not enough.
Really?
It's not enough. And I'm not proud to say this, although it's a caption or capture of what law enforcement training, firearms training entails. But the success rate for defensive shootings in law enforcement, mm-hmm. 30%.
Wow.
That's unacceptable.
What does that mean exactly?
30% hit rate. 30%.
That's,
and so
you can understand why, but
for sure, all the dynamics,
so much going on, but at the
evolving.
same time, it's like, no, that's not good.
We need it to be 100%, don't we? Yeah. Right. We do. So it occurred to me, I'll tell you, there was a shift, even with my training with the wrestling, and which started actually before I started in law enforcement. But even with that training and going through the basic law enforcement academy, it wasn't until I was probably a couple years, maybe a year or two into my career that I was getting ready for work. I'm in the locker room and I'm adjusting the Velcro on my ballistic vest, right? And I'm thinking to myself, this vest is not enough. Mm-hmm. This is not going to save my life. What is going to save my life? This.
Yeah.
So there was a shift in my mindset that the ballistic vest is just a piece of equipment. The pistol too is just, well, it's just a tool. I need to get good. Better than I ever thought. Because just going through basic law enforcement academy, just getting basic firearms training, just completing qualifications once or twice a year.
Right. Is that all it is? Oh man. Okay.
Yeah. I think Washington Administrative Code says 1 time per year is a requirement. So with large organizations and lots of employees, that's sometimes all that happens.
Right.
So it was really up to me. It is up to each individual to train to a level of proficiency that you can accept for yourself.
Right.
So that's where the training really, that was a pivot point, really took off. And I'm like, what do I need to do to get to be proficient? And it's not just standing at the range.
Yeah. I love that. And we all probably have to go through that mindset shift, right? You know, like when you first learn to handle a firearm, you feel really empowered and really proud of yourself. And that's all great. And, you know, you feel like you can hit your target pretty much within 25 yards or whatever. But then really thinking about, okay, how am I going to always not have to use this?
Right, because that's your last resort. This is not, I have lots of analogies. This one being, you cannot take a hammer to every home project, right? You cannot take a pistol to every self-defense situation because that might not be the appropriate level of force.
Yeah.
Okay. So understanding, so it's not just how do I use my tool? It's how do I use my tool lawfully?
Right.
So there's the decision-making, the mindset and the decision-making part is an even bigger piece than the capability or the proficiency with the tool. So there's this crazy balance. Actually, there's an imbalance, isn't there? But trying to seek balance in not just being proficient with my tool and not just in a static, sterile environment, being proficient with my tool in a dynamic environment, and also having the capacity, the cognitive ability to make appropriate decisions based on what I'm understanding and what I'm perceiving at the time.
Right.
So when we are aware of our environment, our situational awareness can lend to situational comprehension, meaning now I comprehend what's happening in my environment. I'm not just aware of it, I actually understand it and can make an appropriate decision on how to perform.
Right.
So another part to that too, as far as working our tools, gun fu, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to call it, is having the confidence with your tool.
Yeah.
Right. If you go to the range twice a year, every time when you pick up your tool, your pistol, you got to kind of start at ground zero again. So the more you have your pistol in your hand and work with it, dry fire, all of those things, the more proficient you can become with the manipulations.
Right.
Right. So I liken that to, I want to be as confident and have that tactile familiarity with my pistol to the same level that I have confidence and tactile familiarity with my fork. Okay, I haven't missed my mouth for a long time. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you know as soon as you pick it up where it goes in your hand.
Yeah.
You don't have to think twice about do I have a good grip?
Yeah.
Because we know if our grip is compromised, we can have malfunctions, we can, miss our target, whatever. Same thing with the fork.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
So I think about it on those terms, like, gosh, if I pick up a pistol, I better understand exactly where it's supposed to be. And the more I do that, the more reps I get in on that. That's one less thing that I have to bring forward from the back burner
Right.
up to the front of my brain where the problem solving has to happen quickly. Right?
Yeah.
We don't have the time to use the problem solving in our system two brains. So,
well, and that's also, I mean, that's one of those things that is a major problem where not just women, but all people who go out and get their first gun and they practice with it a few times. Let's say they get proficient, more or less. They feel pretty comfortable with it. And then it goes in a safe and they never pull it out again.
right.
But they feel safe because they have one.
It's a Webby effect.
Yeah, exactly. Same kind of thing. And so, or like, I was talking to this guy the other day. He's like, oh yeah, it's like riding a bike. I'm like, yeah, except your first few shots are important.
No, it's more like high school Spanish.
Oh God. Yeah.
It's more like high school Spanish. Great. You can ask where the bathroom is and you can order a beer. That's fantastic. But can you really hold down the conversation if you're lost?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. But could you imagine if when you pick up your pistol, you don't think twice? Just like when you pick up your fork, you don't think twice. So one of the things I would do, well, I don't work in uniform anymore. I work a plainclothes unit. So I'm carrying concealed all of the time, which is interesting how this journey has come full circle from sticking it in my briefcase to now can still carry whenever I'm not sleeping, right? So I think about this and I think about getting those reps in. So when you put the pistol in your hand, there is a sense of confidence that you have in how you manipulate it. So before I go into service, whether uniform or not, uniform's easy, it's open carry, right?
Right.
Okay, but it makes sense that it's in context because you have a uniform on. So drawing from the holster 5 times before I go into service, that's it. Takes less than a minute. Do 5 draws right into the clearing barrel. And when I come up, I see where my sights are. So I learn and develop consistency. And again, that tactile familiarity of where my gun's going to be and how when I present, it's going to be straight and true. 5 times. That's it. Reholster, head out. So what happens in that is I get reps in, I build that confidence, and now the mindset of deliberately being safe in my day is right here again.
Right.
It's real easy to put on the belt and it's like, cool. Boy, I look good. Boy, I look good. I'm going to go, kick butt and take names. Head out and you don't think twice about it.
Yeah. But
I'm a stickler. As a training officer too, I'm a stickler. Check all your equipment. If there's something that I'm not saying I'm a control freak. However, if there is something in my realm that I can control to work in my favor, I'm going to make sure it's as it should be.
especially something as easy as your 5 reps, for example.
5 reps, I check my handcuffs, I would check all the tools on my belt. Because if something fails that I had control over, I failed.
Yeah.
And I don't mean this to be like, so extreme, so hypervigilant. It's not hypervigilance.
Yeah.
It's being prepared and effective.
Yeah.
I don't have time to fiddle fart around with my equipment in a critical incident. I need it to be available.
For sure. And it's not like, a purse strap you're checking. Yeah. It's something that's very important to what you're going to do during your day or possibly have to do.
But speaking of that, let's pivot here. So if we were to be talking about purse straps, okay, do you wear your purse crossbody? Do you carry it on your shoulder? Is that stupid thing zipped or is it open with all your stuff hanging out?
Yeah.
Right? So could you be deliberate in securing your items by going crossbody and zipping, making sure your purse is zipped?
Right.
Is that paranoid? No. It's just about being prepared and controlling the things you have control over to minimize opportunity for something to go wrong.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
I think it could be that simple.
Yeah.
I think it is that simple.
A lot of things are that simple.
Yeah. But we gloss over it. We overlook that stuff because we're not engaged with what we need to do.
Right. Yeah.
And what's important.
I wanted to ask you about your experience when how many years were you out on patrol?
I think, I'm just going to pull a number out, maybe 7 years on patrol.
Okay.
Of this total time.
And so when you're on patrol, you get all kinds of calls, for domestics and
All of it. You name it.
Everything. And so how often, if ever, did you encounter a woman who was able to defend herself by using a gun in any way, whether that's just to show that she has one, to pull it out, maybe shoot somebody, I don't know. But how often did that happen? Did it happen at all in your service area?
I can't really think of a time where a woman used a firearm in self-defense. I can definitely think of times when a woman has used a strategy or had a plan or employed a tactic that bettered her position. Okay. So can I share something?
Of course.
Okay. So quick anecdote, maybe not so quick. So I woke up from a night shift. So I'm at home. I woke up from a night shift. And if you do shift work, you understand that you are not at your best.
Yeah.
Okay. So waking up from a night shift to me feels like that the character from The Hangover, Alex Galifianakis, his character when he comes out of the whatever and he's stumbling around and he's got just a t-shirt and beads on. It feels kind of like that. You're
like, where am I?
You're dumb. What happened? Yeah. Where have I been? What happened? So it kind of feels like that. That's how I felt anyway. So I got up and my bedroom is street facing second level. So what I usually do when I get up is I look out the window and just check the weather, see what's up outside.
Yeah.
So I did that. I got up, I looked through the curtains, and I see two things. I see a dude running up the street, not a man out for a jog, a dude running up the street carrying a bag.
Oh, okay.
And I see a car that I don't recognize parked in my driveway. So I have a long driveway, probably twice as long as most driveways. So this car is parked all the way up at my garage.
Oh.
So I'm like, what's up? And because I have hangover brain, night shift brain, I'm thinking, this dude just dumped a stolen rig in my driveway. That's what I think. That's where my mind went.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So because of some planning and preparedness and some thoughtfulness, I already have an idea of what I'm going to do. Okay. So I can't see if anybody's in this car, but I can see the license plate, which, as you know, is a good clue. So I call 911. I don't hear any noise in my house. My dog's not making any noise, although she barks ferociously if somebody knocks on the door.
Yeah.
She won't do anything else.
That sounds like another dog I know.
And I don't hear her nails on the floor, so she's not up and around. So I close my bedroom door, get on the phone with 911, grab my pistol, and explain who I am, what's happening.
Right.
And that I'm going to stay in my room until I know that everything is code 4, good to go, safe. So it was probably, my adrenaline was pumping.
I'm sure.
Okay. And I'm thinking to myself, come on, Jules, come on. You know how to do this. This is what you get paid to do all day, every day, all night, every night. But I also understand that I don't have a uniform on. I have jammies on. Right. So it takes probably maybe 6 or 7 minutes. I didn't time it, but it felt like a long time, but not excruciatingly long. That before a patrol unit got there, determined that there was somebody sitting in the car for that whole time.
Wow.
Okay. So I don't know what that was about. I didn't like it though. There was no need for it, right? Red flag. So they make contact with the person in the car. He says he's an Uber Eats driver that was looking for a particular address, which makes very little sense. They would pull it all the way up into the driveway. That's okay. That's okay. So he was alerted that somebody was home and police were there. So he leaves and
it wasn't a stolen car.
Wasn't a stolen car. And big adrenaline dump. But this had always been my plan, is to get to the safest location I can. It's not my job to explore.
Right.
it's my job to stay safe. So in that instance, I'm not wearing a police officer hat. I'm wearing a lady at home hat. Right?
Yeah.
So I get to make that discernment about what my role is. If I had gone outside and confronted this person, way behind. Had it not been a threat, no harm, no foul. But I'm not willing to compromise my safety to determine that.
Yeah. And you have to know where that line is going to be for yourself. And every situation is going to be different, right?
For sure.
That is going to be, yeah. So someone who's in your driveway and sitting in a car, you don't know what's going on, is totally different than someone standing in your living room and you wake up and find them there. For sure. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that would have been different because the immediacy of the threat changes, right?
Yeah, completely. So then you probably are going to take care of business right now or in another way.
So it would have come across differently. It would have been handled differently.
Right.
And so it was my intention. So this person, now it makes sense for uniformed officers to ask these questions and confront this person. Right? The context is all right.
Yeah.
Had it been crazy lady with stinky breath and hair like this in her pajamas, right?
Yeah.
Toting a gun and a cell phone, how would that have gone over? And had it been a threat, I pushed the issue potentially because I left a safe place. I didn't move to a better position. I moved to a position of disadvantage. So big adrenaline dump. The moral to the story is that I had a plan and I executed the plan. And I would much rather have a plan, execute my plan and have nothing happen and call it a win.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
So we can't measure our wins and losses because nothing happened. We can actually measure wins because nothing happened. But do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was a crazy kind of experience because even after it was over, I'm like, you could have taken care of that.
Yeah.
You could have taken care of that. Sure. But at what cost?
Right.
Potentially my safety. So.
Well, and I don't know if people realize that, like when I was growing up, you wouldn't call 911 unless someone was dying.
Right.
And so, it's like basically walk it off, even if you're dead, like.
Yeah, it was for active emergencies only. Well, that's changed, hasn't it?
It has changed, but a lot of it has changed, not all for good, but some for good. Like I was home by myself a year or two ago, and this guy showed up at the door soliciting for something, but something was weird about it. And maybe he was just a bad salesperson. That's probably what it was. But it was unusual for that neighborhood, and it was getting dark, and I was alone, and I was like, something's not right about that. And I mean, I've worked for 911 for a long time, and so I'm used to making these requests, but I don't know if all of you know, but you can absolutely call the non-emergency number or 911 if you just can't find it. It's totally fine. They'll transfer you to non-emergency operator and just request a patrol for your neighborhood. Just voice your concern like, hey, this thing happened. It doesn't even need to spell out danger necessarily. But if you feel like there's a risk or you feel unsafe or you just want to have a police presence, it can stop something bad happening.
You're right on. I've said this before, if you have even the fleeting thought that you should call, then call.
Just call. Yeah.
Guess what? Call receivers have to triage the calls, and maybe that's not a priority call based on call volume and whatever's happening in the environment. But it's still part of the law enforcement role. So that's perfect. Why not? Well, you have nothing to lose, and then nothing is still a win.
Right. And worst case scenario, maybe the call receiver has an inner thought that's like, that's a dumb reason to call. So what? It's like the worst case scenario.
We will judge all day long. Yeah. We will hang up and say whatever, however we're feeling about it. But interestingly enough, it's funny because after that scenario, and I went to work that night, and I told my squad about it. And they're like, oh, I'd have gone outside. And I said, exactly. I know. I know. And not that it's right, wrong, or otherwise. This is a decision I made for myself with the understanding that I want to be safe and I don't want to borrow trouble.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm going to navigate this in a way that makes the most sense for my safety.
Definitely.
And some of my colleagues were like, oh, yeah, I chased a guy down the street one time. There was, Yeah, that's not for me.
Yeah, no, not for me either.
That's not for me. I'm not,
afraid not.
I have nothing to prove. I have nothing to prove. So I will let the uniform guys and gals take care of that business.
Yeah. So, well, I think there's two more things I wanted to go over with you. First and foremost, like, why do you think more women don't learn to shoot or learn to defend themselves? Why do you think so many women are okay with just being a sitting duck, so to speak?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I believe that historically, women have been raised to be polite and agreeable. Okay, so there's that. I also believe that culturally and as a society, we have historically relied on first responders to handle our problems. Okay. There's lots of issues that go with that. The first one being first responders are just that, they're responding. So we're coming after the fact.
Right.
Okay. We're not as preventative as we'd like to be or as people think we are. Hate to say it, but that's the reality.
Right.
So I think those are two main reasons. We want to be polite and agreeable, and we're going to call if we need help.
Right.
Well, that's going to be too late, perhaps.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. So what are you willing to do to help yourself? And this is the push, right? This is why I do what I do. This is why you do what you do. And we do it together and we spread the good word because it is absolutely and has always been our individual responsibility for our personal safety. So there's an investment. There's an investment in ourselves because we're worth it.
Yeah.
Because we deserve it, because it's our God-given right, our divine right to be able to do that. So that's the promotion, that's the mission. And I think that we miss that. Some women can miss that based on their own experience too, as they've grown up. Maybe they have not ever been in a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't recognize potential problems and have been lucky.
Yeah.
I don't know what that looks like or who lives there. I don't know that I know anybody that lives in this beautiful place full of glitter and unicorns. But I think that the combination of any of those things is what lends to us just bebopping along like we got no care in the world.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm not, again, and probably, I imagine just like you, Amara, I'm not hypervigilant. I'm not paranoid. I'm not thinking a green gorilla is going to jump out of the sky and attack me at any given moment.
Right.
I'm paying attention and I'm stacking the cards in my favor.
Right.
With simple tactics. Locking my doors.
Yeah.
Put my seatbelt on. All of the things, even the things like that are perfunctory that we do every day. Why do we wear our seatbelt? To minimize the opportunity of injury should we be in a collision.
Right.
Not just to not get a ticket.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we do it in such a way with automaticity that we don't think twice about it. But what if we were to click that seatbelt and go, I am going to be my safest today in all aspects. Here's one click. And be mindful and purposeful about it. So once again, we're moving that safety mindedness from back here to up front again. Now we're paying attention to our environment. I think it could be that simple. But getting back to your question, I think it's any combination of those things that have us just going about our business without a care in the world.
Yeah, I think that oftentimes women don't think anything can really touch them until it does. And
it rocks.
Yeah.
Their world.
Yeah.
Inside out, upside down. And I've come across during trainings and life, so many women who have been assaulted or victimized in some way. And boy, I would like to curb that number.
Oh, same. Definitely.
You know?
Yeah.
Although I have a good friend that was attacked, and she did the things that she needed to do to survive. So grateful. She also did the things she needed to do to assist in prosecution because this person was apprehended. I could tell you the whole glorified story about how the canine found the guy in the woods and did that.
I gotta say, that is just so satisfying. When you're working when I'm on that side of the radio working that pursuit and they're like, we need aid for canine application. I'm like, yes. It's awesome.
So all of that stuff. And after all was said and done, so not only she survived this assault, she assisted in prosecution, which is a whole battle after the battle. It's a whole nother fight.
Yeah.
But she did that. And I remember having a conversation with her and saying, you know what? I'm sorry that this happened to you. I'm grateful that you understood how to cover your head and protect yourself as best you could. I'm grateful that you committed to the prosecution because you probably saved somebody else's life.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So give yourself some credit and have some grace with how you performed from beginning to end. Because had you not survived, had this person not been arrested and held accountable, these types of incidents generally aren't one and done.
Yeah.
They're progressive and they continue in intensity and frequency. So,
but that's so brave of her. Yeah.
Amazing.
It's inspiring.
But to even have a conversation with her, to lend to her the satisfaction that she did everything she was supposed to do.
Yeah.
That empowerment I think is priceless.
Yeah. And to realize that there's no way that was her fault and that she did everything that she could to protect herself and that bad things can happen.
On that note, so we talk about, and it seems to be a woman's greatest fear to be attacked at random, right?
But when, that's so rare, isn't it?
It's not as common as being attacked by a known person.
Yeah.
Because our defenses are down, our boundaries are compromised.
Or you think they don't really mean it. I don't want to hurt them. All these.
Oh, I'm pretty good. I feel okay. And here's some more of the mindset piece. I'm okay with setting aside empathy to protect myself or somebody else. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And it's not ever my goal. It's not on my to-do list to hurt somebody. It is on my to-do list to keep myself and others safe. Yeah. So if that's the avenue that we go down, well, that's the way that works.
Well, and unfortunately, it winds up being such a gray, murky type of situation most of the time. And it starts small. Maybe someone at your office is creeping on you and you don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to make a bad feeling at work. And so you're trying to protect your position and trying to not make a big deal out of it or misunderstand or whatever. And there's so much gaslighting that can happen.
Oh boy.
In something like that. So
we start feeling like the crazy one rather than really keeping perspective.
Yeah. If you take it to HR, suddenly you've got this mess on your hands and you're like, oh my God, could I have avoided that? I will do anything to avoid that pretty much, including sacrifice my feeling of well-being when I'm at work.
And now you're the topic of office gossip.
So it's just like this cascading mess. And so if it starts there and you let it progress the next step and then the next little step, pretty soon you're like, well, I kind of allowed this. Maybe this is my fault. And, you could talk about this all day of the progression of how something like this can go from bad to worse and you wind up being attacked by someone that you know and probably could have stopped it. But it's just not so simple.
It's not that simple in that regard. However, I'm a huge proponent for boundary setting.
Yeah.
And this is where we get misinformation or mixed messages about setting boundaries and being assertive and confident without being given a particular label.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a double-edged sword still.
Yeah.
As a woman, and I think we could probably talk about that forever.
Yeah.
Forever.
So.
But yeah, you're right. We get to set our boundaries and it's up to us to keep them.
Yeah, it is.
And so having confidence and listening to our gut.
Yeah. And knowing that you're worth that you're worth being treated with respect. And it doesn't mean that no one has any fun around you or anything like that. It's not like that. There's respectful ways to have fun together in the office. And if someone's being a creeper, then they're being a creeper. It has nothing to do with you.
That's right.
But it is to do with you of how you handle it.
That's a you problem, not a me problem, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm not a psychologist or anything. It's just.
But we know, but we understand human nature.
Yeah.
Right?
It feels like it. Yeah.
We understand how things typically work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what's next for you?
Because
right now are you a detective, or what is your position?
So I'm an investigator. In our plainclothes unit, a supervisor actually. So I get to guide and support my team. Mm-hmm. That's my assignment for the next 3 years. Mm-hmm. So I've been on this team for 2 years. So my assignment for the next 3 years, not sure what my longevity looks like as far as staying in law enforcement, for a couple of reasons. First being, I don't have to stay. Mm-hmm. And second, I'm so busy with Raider Tactical. It's so hard to say no to work. Mm-hmm. And I think within the next year, there'll be a big pivot from being a law enforcement professional to being a full-time training professional and consultant. So I absolutely find so much satisfaction in having conversations like this and giving people information, lending understanding, lending confidence, lending skill to people who wouldn't otherwise know where to go to get those things.
Right.
I love it. It's so satisfying. I'm actually doing a little presentation at Renton Chamber of Commerce. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Oh. So I'm going to do a little talk on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's what motivates me.
And your reach is going to expand so much more.
Yes, because I've been training cops for 20 years. I've been training cops, and that's great. But they're not necessarily thirsty for the information. It's really more a check the box kind of thing. And I don't mean to knock it. But when it's mandatory, it's not quite as satisfying as somebody seeking out some information and some guidance on how to live their best life, their safest life.
Yeah.
So that's what's up. And more training in Italy.
Heck yeah. I want to go next time.
Yeah. But, I think the next plan is scheduling a weapon retention course there.
Oh,
that's not something that the folks there in the forces, the security forces and military and law enforcement there train. So we get to bring some of the things that we've worked on over the years and share that knowledge with them. So weapon retention, because that's part of the deal too, right?
Right.
So I think that's the next, hopefully in the spring.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Thank you for coming out.
Yeah, it's an honor. I love it.
I can't wait to talk again.
Thanks, Amara.
Thanks, Julia.